What's up YouTube? Today we are going to be swapping out a CV axle seal. So it's where the seal in the transmission, where the CV axle sits against or seals against. My 2006 Subaru STI is leaking right there, so I figured I would show you guys how to swap out that seal while I have it apart. This should be pretty much all the same for all Subaru models, maybe even more than just Subarus. I'm not really sure. Should all be the same for Subarus though. Now the very first thing we are going to want to do, guys, get the car up on some ramps like I have here, and then get the car jacked up in the air. If your car is not slammed like this one is, you can probably just jack it up in the air without putting it on the ramps. The best place to jack up a Subaru is right on that cross member right there that you see the jack on. And I'm just throwing the jack stands on the frame rails. Now guys, if you do not have a strong impact, a 1/2 inch impact, you need to loosen up the lug nuts when the car's on the ground. But I am using an impact just to rattle these lug nuts off. So make sure, if you do not have one, loosen up these lugs on the ground with a breaker bar before you jack it up. The next step is to remove the CV axle nut. Once again guys, if you do not have a beefy 1/2 inch impact, get a DeWalt by the way. The XFE 20 volt series is amazing. But if you do not have an impact, you're gonna have to pop your center cap off your wheel and loosen this up also while the car is on the ground. But this nut here, I use a 1 1/4 inch socket for. I'm sure there's a millimeter that converts over to that, but that's what I got and it fits perfect, so I'll rattle that off. Out of the way, we can disconnect the lower strut mount from the hub. So there's a bolt here, and I don't know if I can show you guys, there's a bolt right below it too. Both 19mm nuts from the factory. This one has a camber bolt on it on the top, so this will be an 18mm on mine. Yours, if it's stock, will be a 19mm nut. And before you unbolt the strut from the lower mount or the hub, you want to grab a pen and mark the top bolt. It's a camber bolt, so mark the top bolt, just a line through it. So if you don't want to realign your car, you can just set it back to the camber it was at before we disassembled it. Now that we got those bolts out, we can simply just push the strut off of the hub, like so. And now to get the CV axle out of the hub, we're just gonna simply press down on the hub enough to slide that CV axle out. Now that we got the wheel side of the axle out, we're gonna need to pull the tranny side. This is the 06, so it's the male style axle, which just pops out of the tranny. Excuse me. Now if it's the older style, there will be a roll pin that goes through the axle. So you're gonna need to press that roll pin out with a hammer and a punch. Now for this style, we just use a flathead screwdriver and pry on the axle and it'll pop out. There's a little circlip on the axle that expands into a groove inside the tranny. So we simply just need to get that circlip popped out. That is what it will look like when the circlip is popped out. You can simply just pull out the CV axle from there, like so. So that is the seal we will be replacing. Now to get that seal out, we're just gonna insert a flathead screwdriver and pry on it there. Just gonna go around it a few times and pry it on the seal, and it will pop right out of that tranny. The seal is out of the tranny. That is what it looks like when sometimes this little ring falls off of the seal, so make sure you pull that out of the tranny as well. So now that we got the old seal out, we can throw in the new seal. Guys, these are also different left to right. At least on this STI they are. I'm not sure about the WRXs. STIs are different left to right side, different part numbers, so make sure you get the proper seal in the proper side. To get the seal back in the transmission, we're gonna take the seal and we're gonna find a socket that fits, that is the same exact size as the outer diameter of the seal, so we can press that back into the transmission. Before we throw the tranny, I'm gonna grab some grease or some motor oil, get it on the outer edge of the seal so it slides in there much easier. So we can simply just get the seal slid up in the tranny like you see there. Then we're gonna grab our socket and a rubber mallet and tap the seal into the transmission. Just like so, guys. The seal is now into the transmission. It is fully bottomed out on the transmission case. We are now ready to install the CV axle back into the transmission. Now that is what tears the axle seal actually. When you're getting the CV axle in here, it'll catch on an edge and it'll tear the seal. So we want to be very careful when installing the axle back into the transmission to not tear the new seal, or it's going to leak just like the old one did. We now have the axle back on the car. The very last step is to torque the CV axle nut. It goes to 130 foot-pounds. So the best way to do this, guys, pull your center cap off your wheel, put your wheel on the car, and then lower the car down onto the ground. And grab your torque wrench and torque that. As soon as you get that torqued, you will have, there's that little washer, or the part right here you're gonna bend into the nut. It's just a little security tab, I guess you would call it, to make sure that nut does not come off, because if that came off, that'd be very catastrophic. That's gonna wrap up this oil seal install video, guys. Make sure you have that seal pressed all the way into the transmission, or it's probably gonna either fall out or leak on you guys. This is gonna wrap up the video, the install video. I hope it was helpful for you guys. One more thing, if you do not have the socket big enough for that seal installation, Subaru has a tool for that. I will have that link down in the description box below, as well as the part numbers for both the left and right sides for if you have like a, I believe 05 to 07 STI is all the same part number. So I'll have all those linked down in the description box below. Anyways, if you thought this video was helpful, please give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button if you enjoy the content. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next video.